What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Bulls Report. My name is Patrick Siepman, and coming up on today's show, I wanted to go over the good and the bad coming out of the Zach LaVine trade, as a lot of different Bulls fans have different opinions on this deal that went down late last night. So I wanted to go over some of the pros, some of the cons of this deal for the Chicago Bulls moving forward. But speaking about the Bulls and their front office, let me ask you guys this to start off today's show. What is your confidence level in the Bulls front office? Scale it for me 1 to 10 down below in the comments section. Now, even though I am in the camp that trading Zach LaVine was the right move, I still have about zero faith in the Bulls front office making the right decisions here moving forward. So I'm bet probably a 1.5 or a 2 on this one. But you guys let me know your thoughts. What is your confidence level in the Bulls front office moving forward? So big shout out to Bobby Marks for this. He just puts out a kind of a graphic explaining all of the Bulls, kind of how their roster shakes out and all of their trade assets after the Zach LaVine trade. He had the starting 5 of the Bulls running Lonzo Ball, Kobe White, Josh Giddey, Patrick Williams, and Nikola Vucevic. But the biggest kind of financial move off this Bulls Kings Spurs trade is the Bulls actually have up to $26 million in trade exceptions, which could be huge moving forward. And obviously the draft asset side of it, all 7 of their own first round picks for the next 7 seasons are their own, which is key. And then they also do still have the top 14 protected first from the Portland Trailblazers, but it's more likely than not that that won't come to fruition this season. So let's dive into it. The pros and the cons of the Zach LaVine trade. I think the number one pro here is that there's no more purgatory for the Chicago Bulls. And this is my biggest gripe being a Bulls fan for the last couple of seasons, is that you weren't good enough to compete in the Eastern Conference, but you also weren't bad enough to land a top pick in the NBA draft. And this is the biggest win of this deal, is that the Bulls finally have a sense of direction. Now, obviously, I think Bulls fans are disappointed that we are probably going to be a very bad basketball team for the next couple of years. But I think if you look down the line, the next 5-7 years, it looks a lot brighter in terms of that future compared to what it was if you would have just kept LaVine. Maybe you wouldn't have gotten your first round pick for this season. But I think the number one positive coming out of this trade is that the Bulls have actually picked a lane. Hey, we are going to be bad. We're going to try to accumulate some talent in the draft and then set this rebuild and really head towards this youth movement. So I think the number one pro here is that the Bulls just finally have some sense of direction here moving forward. And number two, I can't undervalue or state how big this is that you have regained control of your first round pick. And, I think after the trade, like the biggest kind of, move for the Bulls is that you are locking yourself into having your first round pick for next season. Even if you somehow go on a run here, make the play-in tournament, which I think is unlikely after the Zach LaVine trade, even if you land pick number 11, that is yours. But not only for this year, I'm mainly talking about next season, because if, let's just say the Bulls landed that first round pick, it just turns into a top 8 protected picks, which makes it even harder for the Bulls to have full control of their own draft capital. So, we can already start shifting our attention to the NBA draft. And, that lottery night will probably be the biggest night in Bulls franchise history over the last 5 seasons, and we are all going to be praying that they can land a guy like Cooper Flagg. But there's also 4 other prospects in this draft that, are really intriguing to me. Dylan Harper, son of Ron Harper, very smooth point guard or shooting guard here at the next level. I think he's going to be a stud in the NBA. But my guy is Ace Bailey. He reminds me so much of a guy like Tracy McGrady, where he is an elite athlete. He can score from all 3 levels, and really he can really just put pressure on the rim at the highest level. But a guy that reminds me of Vince Carter actually is VJ Edgecombe, one of the best athletes I've ever seen. You go put on his tape here at Baylor during his freshman campaign. This dude is a freak, but also a more well-rounded point guard. Watch out for Jeremiah Fears. I think this guy's going to be a late riser, guard out of Oklahoma. He is truly just a polished scorer already at the college level, and I think his game could really translate nicely to the NBA. So watch out for these 5 guys. If the Bulls get a top 5 pick, either of these players could be a Chicago Bull next season. But third, the biggest positive here, and why I've been kind of pounding the table that the Bulls should move off Zach LaVine, Nikola Vucevic, and some of these guys who have been just been taking up a lot of minutes and a lot of shots, is that the younger guys are going to just naturally get more minutes. And the one guy I'm sure all of you guys are thinking about here is Modest Buzelis. Like, he is only playing around 13 minutes a game, averaging 5.1 points, 2.7 rebounds, 0.4 assists per night. He's actually averaging 2.5 blocks per 36 minutes, which is fantastic. But, I think the biggest way you can develop in the NBA is, yes, you can have the work behind the scenes, work on your craft, work on your skill, but I think the best quality reps you can get is actually in a game. As shocking take that is from me, but I think it's true, especially for a young guy. Modest was only 20 years old. Him just getting more game reps, him getting more shots per game, because he already is a very, very good defensive player in the NBA. But offensively, he does struggle. But he has an NBA skill set. He just really needs to polish some of his moves here. And I think in a couple years, Modest could be a focal point of the Bulls roster. Eventually when they're competing for championships. But lastly here, another why I'm a big fan of this trade is LaVine is just a tease. And I still see Bulls fans, freaking out. How could we let go of Zach LaVine? He's having such a great year for the Bulls. And I fully understand that because, listen, if you just look at his stats, like you're saying this guy's a top 30 basketball player in the world. He's a walking bucket. He can score from all three levels. He's very efficient from beyond the arc as well. I mean, this year he shoot 44.5% from three. That's all credit to Zach LaVine. I will give him his props there. But I do think defensively, he is a cone on defense. He can't keep guys in front. And also, if you turn on his highlights, they're flashy, they're nice. He's an athlete. He can score from all three levels, but I still think he is a black hole with the basketball. And what do I mean by that? Is the Bulls constantly this season are working the ball around. There's good movement, and then the ball lands in his hands, and it's kind of like, hey, clear out, flatten out. Zach's going to go get a bucket, and that's a big reason why the Bulls are 21-29. They're not a winning basketball team as LaVine running the show offensively. So I think a lot of people are upset about this trade because they see the highlights, they see the numbers that Zach LaVine's putting up, but I just think it is a huge tease for us, or at least for the common NBA fans out there. But you guys let me know. What are your thoughts on the Zach LaVine trade almost 24 hours later? You guys let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Very curious to see what you guys have to say. So you guys comment your thoughts down below. Now we'll dive into the negatives of the Zach LaVine trade here in a second. But first off, I want to give a massive shout out to today's presenting sponsor, and that is PrizePicks. Now, if you guys download the PrizePicks app today, plug in that promo code CLNS, you guys will get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. So download the PrizePicks app today, plug in that promo code CLNS, get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Now, what is PrizePicks? It is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least two players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks. And with the big game this Sunday, Chiefs versus the Eagles, they got a sweet deal for you guys where only one Patrick Mahomes passing yard will get you one win on PrizePicks. So when you're creating the lineups for the Chiefs-Eagles game this Sunday, make sure you guys include this. This is a free pick for all of you guys, so take advantage. And when you download the PrizePicks app, just plug in that promo code CLNS. You guys will get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. So download the PrizePicks app today. Plug in that promo code CLNS. Get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. But massive, massive shout out to PrizePicks for sponsoring today's show. I'll have that link for you guys in the comments and description of today's video. But shout out to PrizePicks. PrizePicks, run your game. All right, negatives of the Zach LaVine trade, because by no means I think this is a perfect deal. Even though I'm a fan of the trade, there are negatives to be discussed. And I think number one, just call it like it is. It was not a great haul for the Chicago Bulls. Now, I think it's huge that you're able to regain control of your first-round draft capital for next season and the years beyond that. But still, in the end, it's not like the Bulls got an amazing haul for Zach LaVine. I mean, you're getting Zach Collins, Trey Jones, Kevin Huerter. Like, those are no young players who could potentially develop into stars by any means. But I will say, just in Kevin Huerter, he's got a $17 million player option for next season. It's not a terrible expiring deal to have. And then Trey Jones, solid, shifty guard off the bench, and also more roster moves for Chicago. They are going to waive Chris Duarte and Torrey Craig. So Zach Collins, Trey Jones, Kevin Huerter most likely won't be rerouted. Now, we could see it. Anything can happen. Anything can come to fruition before Thursday's NBA trade deadline. But most likely these three will be on the roster. But still, I totally understand why Bulls fans are not thrilled about this deal. You could have gotten more, but I also don't think it's as bad as some people think. But number two here, it puts a lot of pressure on the Bulls' ability to draft here for the next couple of years because, them sending off Zach LaVine, you're pretty much telling the fans and you're telling yourselves, like, yeah, we're going to knock it out of the park on next year's draft. And, honestly, I think the Bulls They just need to crush the next 3 NBA drafts here, because hopefully you can land a guy like Cooper Flagg, Ace Bailey, one of these guys next season. But even the years after that, like an AJ DeBantev. Let's just say the Bulls are terrible next season and they have a terrible record and they could somehow get the #1 pick. Like, there are truly generational players coming out over the next 3 seasons. And with you making this trade, you're pretty much telling everybody we are going to knock it out of the park for the next 3 drafts. So I think it puts a lot of pressure on that, but it also puts pressure on getting a Nikola Vucevic trade done at the NBA trade deadline. I think absolutely it would be a total disaster if the Bulls do not move Vooch before Thursday's NBA trade deadline. And I fully stand by that, because if the Bulls don't make a Vooch trade, I will be absolutely furious, because you finally have some sense of direction where it's like, yes, we are going to try to bottom out, land the best draft pick possible. Hopefully you win, 2 or 3 games the remainder of the season. Ideally, that would be my dream plan for the Chicago Bulls. But if you aren't able to move Vooch, I think it would be a total disaster from this organization and the front office. And there are reports out there that the Bulls are actively shopping Nikola Vucevic and also Lonzo Ball ahead of the trade deadline to continue their hopes of bottoming out for a top pick. I will say quickly on Lonzo Ball, I'm not trading him unless it's for a first-round pick. And you probably won't get a first-round pick for Lonzo, so I am hoping that the Bulls keep him on the roster. You could assign him to an extension this summer, maybe 2 for $30 million. I think it'd be a great guard coming off the bench for Chicago here. But where could Vooch go? I think these are the 5 teams that are most likely to trade for Vooch. Obviously, the Lakers, following the Anthony Davis, Luka Doncic deal, they have a huge need at the center spot, so maybe they get desperate, toss you a couple picks for Vooch. But also the Warriors, they struck out on Zach LaVine, and also Jimmy Butler reports are saying he doesn't want to go to Golden State. So if you need some more offensive firepower in the Bay Area, Vooch makes a lot of sense. And then also I like the idea of the San Antonio Spurs, who, the Spurs have fleeced the Bulls front office, many times over the last couple of years. Maybe they like the idea of a Vooch-Wemby front court combination. At least I do. And also the Pelicans, they've been heavily linked to Vooch dating back to this summer. Then the Indiana Pacers, if they do decide to move off Miles Turner, maybe Nikola Vucevic could become a trade target for the Indiana Pacers. You guys let me know. Drop your take down below in the comment section. Will the Bulls trade Nikola Vucevic? Give me a Y for yes or an N for no. And also, you guys can hit me up on Twitter. That's a handle right there, @PatSieps. Give me a follow over there. I'll give you guys a follow right back. But it's going to be a crazy, crazy time to be a Bulls fan right now, as I expect a lot more trades to happen for the Chicago Bulls. So make sure you guys are subscribed. Don't miss a thing. And we'll see you guys next time. Go Bulls.